and out of this, 1 billion people are actually carrying a smartphone. And those 1 billion people are connected to internet, creating and consuming content every single minute. Right now also, I think every one of you is creating or consuming some content. Right? The per capita data consumption of India is the highest in the world, even higher than US and China. The other part is I come from data center background, now migrating to cloud and GPUs. But in terms of data center capacity, while India is creating and consuming 20% of the world's data, 1/5 of the world's data is actually created and consumed by India. But how much is hosted in India? 3%. That shows the problem, but that shows the opportunity. In the last 7 years, India has built data center capacity almost 7 times compared to what it used to be 2015-16. But even if we keep on building this infrastructure, the digital infrastructure for next 10 years, we will not be reaching the scale which India deserves for serving its own market and also to serve as a hub for the global demand, which I think Prime Minister himself has spoken just 2 days back, I think in an interview to PTI. Prime Minister has spoken that while India has been a world leader always for the last 3 decades in application layer, right? In application of technology, and of course as a consumer of technology. But how do we create technology? How do we create that infrastructure so that we not only serve the aspirations of the countrymen, but also we serve the aspirations of the world, and India for sure can serve the aspirations of the global south. Now when we are doing this, unless India has got an infrastructure of digital, right, which is in terms of compute, India cannot do that. India cannot be just sitting on imported technology which has happened in the last 15, 20, 30 years. We all have been consumers, we have not created it. It is the right time for India to create its own infrastructure. Once we do that, we will be defining what type of model we create. Socket has taken an initiative in that. We will be knowing what type of data sets our model will take. We will be knowing which use cases Indians prefer. Is it in agriculture, in healthcare, in education, in space? The problem which Indians face which can impact the masses and not just to fill the deep pockets of some rich people. I think that is what is India's moment. And if we are able to work on all the 5 stacks, especially on infrastructure in the next 7 years, next 10 years, I think this will be India's glory, and India will be known as the real, the nation which has taken AI to the whole of global south and to the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So maybe my first question would be for Mr. Rangarajan. So I think this is a question which everyone is asking to all the people who are building these models in India. And the question is very simple. There are so many open source models, small, big, large, right? Why India should build its own language model? Is it just because we want to learn the training recipe, or is it something that is there which people don't understand? So any comment on it?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And let me actually then give you, of course, in the context of being someone from defense, let me give you an example of something which is very relevant. Now, let's talk about our borders with the eastern borders that we have, right? Now, if you look at China, the language that they have, Chinese, is actually obviously not just one language, right? So you have Mandarin, you have Cantonese, you have various kinds of divisions within Chinese as well. And you also have an incredibly varied number of dialects. So what is being spoken in the borders in Leh and Ladakh will become very different than the borders in, let's say, Northeast Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh, and so on and so forth. Now these are all dialects. A person who is speaking supposedly Chinese in the areas of Tawang may not even understand properly what is being spoken in Leh and Ladakh, right? Now, when we talk about defense applications for large language models, you cannot expect somebody sitting in the US to try and appreciate some of the nuances that we need to understand as Indians to protect the security of our borders. So we need ability to understand various dialects, various kinds of implications of tones, of language, of structures of sentences. And you need people who can then translate that to the local use cases, okay? This is of course very relevant in a security context where your ability to intercept or interpret what is being spoken across the borders is really, really important. But let me also take another example where, I come from the southern state of Tamil Nadu. There are so many dialects even within Tamil Nadu, and a person in the southernmost part of Tamil Nadu will not speak something which is super sensible for somebody in the northern part of Tamil Nadu. Of course, you can make out 80% of what is being said, but never 100%. Therefore, the question is, if we are going to build something which is a model, which is the westernized version of what India needs versus the Indianized version of what India needs, you need to understand then who will be able to understand our own pain points better. Will the local person sitting in, let's say, Tirunelveli district in Tamil Nadu be able to understand that better? Or somebody sitting in a research lab in the US be able to understand it better? So that, I think, is really the core focus. You need local models handled by local people in order to be truly relevant for the full population. You can of course get to, let's say, 60-70% relevance with with the base languages. But once you are talking about transforming the remaining 30%, and in this case, remember that this 30% of India is more than the entire population of the US. So when you talk about that number of people being impacted, then you need that local capability.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So I think the message is very clear, right? So it is not just about dialects within the boundary, but it is also about cross-boundary or cross-border dialects and language and diversity that we're talking about here. Okay, so this brings us to another, so at least this clears this thing that we need sovereign models, we need models that are built within India. Okay, now model building requires two major investments. So one is called oil and the other one is called refinery. So when I say oil is the data. And when I say refinery, it is the data centers, right? So my next question is for Mr. Sunil. So what do you think, do we have enough capacity in the refinery or we need to build it? And if that is the case, then how early we can catch up with our Western competitors?
Professor Mink, as I said that just 8 years back, India used to be all of 200 megawatt of data center capacity, right? Which was more built for hosting enterprise applications, e-commerce applications, and the usual stuff. Gradually people were shifting away from captive data centers to centralized third-party data centers. Thanks to the, I would say, a massive movement towards cloud, right? Hyperscalers coming in India, the local players growing. We have seen data center capacity going to around 1.4 gigawatts, like 7 times in the last 7 years. And based on the planned capacity announcements and what is getting built on ground, we all were very sure that India will become a 3 gigawatt data center capacity, which will still be like second or third largest in the APAC and maybe fourth or fifth largest in the world by 2030. AI has just changed the equation completely, right? And as I said that while India is always late to start, late to adopt any technology, but once a tipping point comes when you have got the best of the output to the user at the lowest of the price, that is what India is. The scale at which India adopted technology, we have seen it in so many things, whether it's desktop, laptop, mobile, 5G, everything we have seen. Same thing is supposed to happen in AI, right? We just saw one UPI, which was enabling digital payments, and we know what it has impacted our life. Just imagine if you got 50, 100 UPI moments coming because of AI, because AI will impact every walk of life. When that moment comes and billions of people do that, the data center capacity, which as of now is 3 gigawatt projected, whether it will go to 6 gigawatt, 9 gigawatt, 10 gigawatt, all of us are scared to even imagine that. And again, I'm saying that is the opportunity which India need to build up for itself. Great part is government is recognizing it. You must have realized, you must have seen the tax holiday which government has given in the tax, in the budget this year for 20 years. And what India is aspiring now, that not only India serves its AI to its own, for its own use case to its own citizens, but can we also start bringing the global demand, right, into India itself from India? So I would say the industry is gearing up for this. We as an industry are building data center capacity. You must have seen many announcements, even by Yota itself, by Jio, by Tata, by global majors who are putting in data center capacities. We ourselves, the last 2 years, we have built almost 10,000 NVIDIA, GPUs. In fact, so happy that Abhishek Socket's model is getting trained as we speak on Yorka's GPU clusters. In the next 2 days, you will hear a big announcement from us, and you will hear that announcement from NVIDIA as well, how we're scaling our GPU capacity multifold, to make sure that when India's use cases start getting into production, right, India is never short of the GPU supply. The compute layer and the hidden layer is always available. And I'm sure we will hear similar announcement from multiple players because everybody has seen, I would say, tasted blood now, right? What we were visualizing 2 years back, that India will scale to that. Thanks to India Vision, thanks to government initiatives, thanks to government funding these GPUs and giving to startups, brilliant startups like Socket, we will see lots of model announcements in this event itself. So I think we as India are gearing up, building data center layer and building GPU layer. 2 years down the line, we will not be even talking about that compute is a problem in India.
Then let me just talk about the second point. So when this AI, race started, right, at the time there was very less licensing, privacy concerns were lesser, right, lot of data was available which is in public domain. Now if you see, people are trying to kind of putting these like doors behind, and then you need to have a very restricted access to the data. And when I'm talking about this data, this is data which was available maybe 3 years back, but now it is not available. Right, so this question goes to you, Joseph. If you talk about, like, if you really want to build this AI, big AI ecosystem within Indian boundaries, but the data scarcity is again becoming a major bottleneck, right? So do you think the kind of regulations which are coming up, so there should be a kind of a distinctive or a difference between the entities which are coming up from India, or the entities which are coming outside from India, and maybe serving the same people, Indians, right? So what is your view on that?
As a regulator, we do a lot of analysis. We also know how these models need so much of data. And I'm told that all the standard models have kind of taken all possible data available there on the internet to train their models. Billions, trillions, I don't know what all the tokens are. But then, whenever we go to a discussion at a global level, we have always seen that the question was, how strong is your data protection? Right? So there was a GDPR on one side, there was cross-border privacy rules on the other side. There was a lot of countries part of it. Until we had our own DPDP Act and the rules, DPDP rules which got notified, we were at a disadvantage. Countries or jurisdictions were a bit skeptical as to how will this jurisdiction or our country handle the data. Now with this out of our way, probably we see a good seat at the table. And this can open up things like what we are discussing today called data corridors between different countries. Right? So I'm not talking about the data required to train the model, that all of you know it, and the kind of challenges, the multi-model nature of it, how we need to get the bias and model poisoning out, all those things are known. But I'm talking about something more strategic. When you have a bridge between two countries, multiple jurisdictions, cross-border data, how does it go? That's a very different perspective and a ballgame than just for our own country. So when you're saying global south, I want to be leading the global south, we need to re-engineer some of these corridors or the pathways which we're thinking. And just think about the possibilities, right? For example, to give an example from the financial sector I represent, if your KYC is portable across countries, what happens? So business here, an MSME here, right, or an individual here, you have this passporting mechanism because of this data corridor to take your business, your identity, your entity to a different country. Likewise, the other way around. Now, this is going to kind of create this leadership space which we need to be in, and that in turn is going to feed into all of your AI models here, because now your AI is not just restricted to a narrow jurisdiction because of the data restriction. Now you're just talking about really being the leader in that space. And that is exactly what we need to aspire to, because now that with the implementation timeline kind of put in for DPTP, I expect that to kind of be a good handshake with the kind of development which is happening in the AI space together, so that we kind of create that perfect environment or the perfect storm as they would call it, so that we can just cross over to the Rubicon. Because as they say, data is oil, very cliched, but inherently that data is what needs to bring in a trusted ecosystem. Because in financial world for us, everything is in trust. So if that data cannot be trusted, let's say there is a lot of hallucination, as we call it in the AI space, then how do we take decisions on that? So forget about cross-border. Within our own jurisdiction, we need to make sure it can be reliable. So there are other possibilities. Probably I was just thinking a marriage of technologies. While AI hallucinates, probably a distributed ledger or a blockchain kind of gives you immutability. Probably a marriage of those two will help us, not sure. But that's something worth trying for us in the long run, because that's when we get the best of all worlds to really be top on the data.
Thanks. So Sahil, last question for you actually. So again, suppose we build this nice infrastructure to train these models, right? So last thing which remains still unanswered is the deployment aspect, right? So do you think we have reached a state where maybe the cloud-based deployment can move to the edge-based deployment, or like there is still like a long way to reach that kind of a thing, right? So the thing is more on the scalability. So how we can scale these deployments?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So I would just like to build on what you said, right? You talked about refinery, you talked about, the fuel and everything, right? Now let's talk about the petrol pumps and the filling stations, right? That's where you need to deploy the whole infrastructure to get that served to the, end consumer. And that's where the data will be consumed, or the tech will be consumed in the consumer's hand. That is for the consumer, but B2B also comes into picture, right? So today, if you see, as I mentioned earlier as well, the compute is moving in people's hand as well. Today you can run a 7P, 10P model on device. Along with that, ASR, TDS model running on device, because that's where immediacy is required, right? And then I think we talked about how India has basically adopted the tech, right? Not just, tech in terms of the services, but say tech in terms of 4G, 5G. When 4G was, in people's hand, everybody started, having the smartphones, right? Similar fashion, if you see what will happen now that, if AI has to be served, has to be democratized, it has to go in people's hand. Now, you cannot run a bigger model for sure, but as Honorable, Minister also said in his remark at Davos that, from 40 to 50 billion parameter is the sweet spot for a country like India, where most of the work is done, right? You don't have to be like thinking about a 500 million parameter model. Now, the data consumption I was mentioning, right? So if you can run, say, small ASR TDS model on device, those are the speech models, right? You don't send everything to the cloud. You just send the text to the cloud. It brings down the overall compute or the, data connectivity requirements down, and also it basically takes your, latency down. So I believe with new tech coming into devices, with GPU, NPU sitting in the devices, and it is going from different sort of devices, when I say, from mobile to cars to even a sound box, right? That's where real deployment happens. And I think if you see, it is all about hybrid architecture, which will, in future be deployed. And with OpenClaw and, agents coming into picture, now you have all your apps sitting on the phone, right? You can take a lot of decisions and then send the output to the cloud. So that deployment, if you can run it on device, and then the final, you can say confirmation or final, engagement can happen with the cloud. That's the real, India scale deployment, scenario would be in my opinion.
Another important point that is essentially talking about is local absorption of various AI models, right, and various AI use cases. Let me also bring another angle of data sovereignty as well as data security into the whole picture. So as an example, there is something called the Cloud Act, which is there in the US, which essentially allows the government of the US to tap into any data center that they deem important for national purposes and extract any data that they want. Imagine today that we are talking about sensitive data which pertains to India's interests, India's positions, sitting in a data center in the US. Now, that can be accessed by the US government at any point of time, as an example. When we talk about defense applications in this case, a very important part that complements what Sahil is saying is about on-premise AI compute and AI infrastructure. Because when it is on-premise, on our own soil, we have better control over who accesses the data, under what conditions it is accessed, and that is a very important part of how the growth we also expect to happen. Because in such a case, then you have a lot of exciting use cases, but also you have the control that tomorrow if we are building for the global south, if we are building for the world, then it is truly ours. It is not something that we are relying on someone else for. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I have been signaled to stop, kind of stop because we are limited on time. So maybe just a quick question, and maybe all panelists can answer that question. So, what would be one bold decision which government of India should make, and so that India becomes the leader, not in terms of AI production?
I think India should declare digital infrastructure as the most essential commodity. Just like India has been building the physical infrastructure in terms of highways and railways and airports and everything, and we know that is directly proportional to economic growth. Digital highways, which are in terms of data centers, networks, compute capacities, has to be treated as an essential commodity, most essential item for the country. India AI Mission has been a fantastic initiative. 2 years back, there were no GPUs in India, and today, everything which we see in India, the model being built and now getting into production, even we'll see some model getting to G2C use cases immediately after this event, is all thanks to because government took an intervention and funded this GPU capacity which was made available to startups and researchers. So I would say government should keep on doing this yeoman's job, allocate more funds to this. Till the time these use cases have their own revenue generating mechanism, they become self-sufficient. At that time, the government can take its rightful role of a good regulator, which they are doing well now. But till that time, government should take these models not only during the training phase, but also during the initial phases of inferencing as well. So compute infrastructure for AI, most essential commodity, that is the decision India should take. Thank you.
Keep it short. It should be Atmanirbhar inference or intelligence which should be there going forward. So if we can control all 5 layers in India, from the use case to the power in between, the infra also comes in. If we can do that, I think that's where you'll see the real Indian AI going forward.
Well, being a regulator, I will look at things from the lens of risk management. So for me, what we need to do is not take the models which we see where either it is free for all or innovation, or on the other side where there is acts for AI and very strong regulation. We need to ensure there's a lot of regulatory sandboxes among the regulators so that, there are guardrails, but before the regulations itself come, the startups and the innovators should have access to the rich volume of data with all the financial sector regulators and other sector regulators to build things in a regulatory sandbox, a controlled environment, so that, at the end of the day, you don't stifle innovation, but you try to kind of encourage it within the guardrails. So that is what I think we should do right. And as lending a term from what he just used, we are all proud about our India stack and the digital public infrastructure. I think the DPI should actually transcend to digital public intelligence going forward.
In the world of AI, I think many of you may have heard of MCPs, the Model Context Protocols, which are currently doing the rounds for more easy understanding of LLMs. I think what India will probably need to develop is its own ICP, India Context Protocol. That will really help when it comes to creating India-specific answer in the world of AI. And maybe there are certain aspects about Indian language, Indian culture, Indian science, etc., which will definitely be factored as part of that, and hopefully that will help us advance our country in the days to come.
Okay, I think we have to end the panel here. I think I also see some hands which have been raised. So what I would request is our panel members will be here after this event. So maybe we can have more one-to-one conversations after this panel. So I'll now hand over this stage to our socket team, and you can take it forward. Thank you so much.
This mic's not working.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Jagdish Shivhare, professor and ex-distinguished scientist ISRO. Sir, my general question, how is the AI impact in India different than global in terms of strategic objectives and innovation challenges?
Sir, if we see 2 years back when this whole narrative got built in India that while India is a software and services leader for last 3 decades, and ultimately it's maths and science, right? And India has been champion in that. Startup ecosystem, data sets, everything is there in India. What's not there is in compute. And that is how this whole India AI vision came into picture. Government had got many objectives at that time, many models at that time. Should we take a US model which is completely private sector led? Deep tech companies investing billions and building a private sector capitalist driven AI economy. There was a model which was completely government driven, and there was a model which was hybrid of the two. India, rightfully so, decided to make a hybrid model where government is acting as a regulator, as an encourager, as a funder also for some time, but allowing private sector to do the innovation, right? So it's also a balance between innovation and regulation also. That's what the path government is taking. And as you can see multiple times from Prime Minister and India Mission objective also, all the models which are being built, funded by India Mission will actually be open sourced, and all those models are actually government to citizen use cases. So what, as the name of this event also suggests, India is talking about impact. Instead of AI filling the pockets of deep tech companies, India is talking about AI actually serving the needs of billions of people across different verticals. And that is how India is different, and that's how India can take its use cases to the whole of global south.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sirs, for such an engaging discussion. We wish we had more time with you. You were very energetic, but we are short on time, as always. I now call upon Abhishek Agrawal, the founder and CEO of Socket AI, to felicitate our panelists as well as the moderator. Abhishek, could you get on the side so that we should, yeah.
Thank you so much. So nice of you. Thank you so much.
Please hold on, the audience. We have a socket showcase. You want to get inside the Frontier Lab. Thank you, everyone. We truly appreciate your time and effort to be with us today. I now call upon Abhishek to take you inside the Frontier Lab, what we're actually here for today.
We can just sit. It's just 5 minutes and just 5 minutes. Hi, good morning, guys. So, Abhishek this side, and I'm just going to very quickly discuss about the work that we are doing at Socket, but I only have like 4 minutes to be precise. And I'll just walk you through the video and maybe talk about the ECA initiative. But we are in booth hall 5, booth number 5.20, and you guys should definitely visit us to go in deeper discussions on how foundation models are built and what effort we are doing around the ECA initiative. So, Rohitash, can you quickly play the video? Yes. So, Project A is a Frontier AI initiative which is supported by the India AI mission. Under the initiative, we are building a foundation model which is a 120 billion parameter large language model. It's a text-only model as of now. We'll add more modalities to it. The current state of the model is that it's in phase 1 where we are creating a math and a code model and to know the strength of the IT sector in India, and we don't want to lose out on the opportunity where these code models come in and disrupt the IT sector itself. So we have taken an initiative in phase 1 to build out this model. The current state is that the 24 billion parameter model, it's a sparse mixture of experts, is being trained at the fantastic cloud of Yotta. Yotta has been really helpful to us in terms of scaling, and we have scaled to almost 1,000 GPUs. So when I was at ISC, we used to take these models on 4090s and all, and this is literally like a dream come true to scale these efforts and literally do a supercomputing kind of scale. More interactions. So math and code model as of now is a Python coding model which can do visualizations, which can summarize code. It's only trained on 2 trillion tokens, and as Sunil sir was also saying that it's in the process of getting trained. So if you want to literally see how foundation model is built and is trained, what kind of graphs, what kind of losses, what kind of difficulties we face even on code, infrastructure and other things, you should definitely visit us and we'll be more than happy to talk about it. We have been very open in terms of sharing our knowledge, sharing our data sets, sharing what happy to host you and love to discuss what we are doing. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, and this ends our discussion and the panel. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you. Thanks for Hi. How are you? Bilkul Bilal. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.